Today we are just going to see about Python while loop functions. Loops in Python programming, the functions similar to loops in C, C++, Java or other languages. Python loops are used to repeatedly execute a block of statement until a given condition returns to be false. In Python, we have two types of looping statements, namely for loop and while loop. We have already discussed related with the for loop. Let me just see what is the while loop is for. And loops are used in Python, the programming, to repeat a specific block of code. We use a while loop when we want to repeat a code block. And what is while loop is for? See, the while loop in Python is used to iterate over a block of code as long as the expression or the condition is true. When the condition becomes false, execution comes out of the loop immediately and the first statement after the while loop is executed. We generally use this loop when we don't know the number of times to iterate beforehand. So Python interprets any non-zero values as true. None and zero are interpreted as false. Why and when to use while loop in Python? This question arises: when do we use the while loop and why do we use it? So here are the exact answer, dear friends. Kindly have a note of it. The first one is automate and repeat task. As we know, while loop executes blocks of code over and over again until the condition is met. It allows us to automate and repeat tasks in an efficient manner. Next, indefinite iteration. The while loop will run as often as necessary to complete a particular task. When the user doesn't know the number of iteration before execution, while loop is used instead of a for loop. And next, reduce complexity. While loop is easy to write, using the loop, we don't need to write the statement again and again. Instead, we can write statement we wanted to execute again and again inside the body of the loop, thus reducing the complexity of the code. Next, it's infinite loop. If the code inside the while loop doesn't modify the variables being tested in a loop condition, the loop will run forever. And here it is the syntax, dear friends, that is, in the while loop, the expression or the condition is checked first. So with the syntax, and the body of the loop is entered only if the expression or the condition evaluates to true. After one iteration, the expression and condition is checked again. The process continues until the test expression evaluates to false. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends. An infinite loop occurs when a program keeps execution within one loop, never leaving it. So to exit out of infinite loop on the command line, just press Ctrl plus C. Next, let me just see it with one by one with an examples. How to print a number less than 5. So let me just have a number, that is the count is equal to 1, and I just want to run this loop until it has to count less than 5. So here, while count is less than 5, I want to make the execution, that is to print it. So by printing it, it just execute the output. And see here, dear friends, we want to make the printing function till it reaches the 5. So here we need the count to be incremented. So once on each and every time when the increment does, it just check the condition whether it is less than or 5. And once if it is reaching the 5, it just not enters into the print function, that is the body of the while condition. It just terminate and come out of the loop. So for that execution, that is incremental of 5, it won't be executed, that is it would be get terminated. So till 5 till 4 it would be printed. Yeah, let me just make it with one more example. See here, dear friends, a number is equal to 10 and we are having a sum is equal to 0 and I is equal to 1. These things we are just going to make use of the sum of first 10 numbers. So number we need a 10 numbers. So for that we are just making it whether it should be less than or equal to 10. And next one is to make the initiation, and we need to make the summation of each and every number, so we need the sum variable here. So sum is equal to sum plus I. So each and every time when on that incrementing of I, it has to get to be added to that of sum. So for this function, we are just making use of at the end we need to execute the sum of the whole 10 numbers. Yeah. So for the this print function is executed, and let me just see what is that total. Yeah, it is 55. Okay, next it is an example that is, see here dear friends, a is equal to 10. So a, it is the variable where enter the body of the while loop because condition is true. See here we are just making whether the value a is, whether it is in a true condition or not. And see here, dear friends, if a is equal to 10, that is, if it is a is greater than 0, yeah, it enters into the loop. And if it is not, that is, it is not greater than 0, or if it is equal to 0, it is going to terminate the loop. That is, it is not going to enter into that of loop. So see here we are just making, instead of incrementing, here it is decremented by 2. And once of all the loop is terminated or the exact process is completed, we need to end with the loop is completed. And here it is the output. Kindly have a note of it, dear friends. So value of a is 10, and as it is initiated, and for each and every loop it just checks whether it is greater than 0 and makes a decrement of -2. And once it reach 2, yeah, it is making again one more decremental, and here it seems a is equal to 0, so it doesn't enter into the loop. Instead of it just terminated and get out of the loop, and at last it would be printing loop is completed. Okay, now the next example, see here dear friends, that is uh, we are having a number n with a value 153, and we are just making the sum is equal to 0. And see here dear friends, here what is the thing is the reminder, that is, if the number is greater than 0, it has to enter into the body where r is the remainder of the division. So here it just makes the modulus of to that of number 153, which is modulus of 10. And what is the remainder of this is, it would be 3. So in that we just want to make the summation to this of equal to the sum, that is sum plus the remainder, that is r. And when we just make use of n is equal to n by 10, each and every time it just makes to that of division by 10, and it makes the loop for the next iteration, that whether if it is again is greater than 0 or not. And see here dear friends, once for all, the again the summation here, it just going to execute it. Yeah, here it is only once it is executed, and the sum it would be 9.999. Next one, how many times a given number can be divided by 3 before it is less than or equal to 10? So here what we just want is let I want to make how many times, so I just want a count, and here the number given is 180, and while the number is greater than 10, so we want to make into the condition, that is into the body of the while, where it just divide the number by 3. And see here dear friends, as we want to make the count number of count to be calculated, so here we are just making the increment of count, and at last once for all the exact process is completed, we want to output, that is execute the total iteration of this exact function. So see here, when on just making this 180, first it just makes 180, and it just makes that is of divided by 3, and again it increases the count, and again it just makes, and totally it just have three counts, sorry, three times of iteration it happened. Okay, and next one, what is the program is? See, program to add natural numbers up to sum is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 until n. Yeah, often you would just get this type of questions in your practical sessions. And to take input from the user, you are just making n is equal to int input from the user, enter the n. And see here, dear friends, we just have the n is equal to 10. If you want to get from the user, yeah, you can just make use of the first command, this one. Okay, now it is specified that n is equal to 10, and with that we are just making that initialization of sum and counter. So just sum is equal to 0 and the counter here it is 1. And see here, dear friends, in this program the test expression will be true as long as the counter variable I is less than or equal to n, and here n is equal to 10 in our program. And we need to increase the value of the counter variable in the body of the loop. And this is very important and mostly forgotten, for failing to do so will result in an infinite loop. And finally the result is displayed, that is the print the sum of. The sum of it is 1 plus 2 plus 3 until n it just moves on. And let me just see the execution. Yeah, here as we have already seen that the summation of 1 to 10 is 55. Yeah, here the answer is to that of same. Next goes to Fibonacci series. Yeah, here we just want to make the Fibonacci series, and here by using a single statement we are declaring two variables a, b, and making the values as 0 and 1. And while b is less than 1000, it just enters into the loop where it just makes the Fibonacci as whether it is making the exact execution of the series. And see here, if this makes the flush of the function if it is true, and once for all it just makes the functionality, that is which we just say a is equal to b and b is equal to a plus b, which just makes the iteration. And once for all, if the b is less than 1000, it just makes the iteration, that is the continues the iteration once for all. If it is done, yeah, it is just going to terminate the loop and ends the function. And here it is once for all making the line of ending, and here the execution output. And next coming the while loop with the if else. See here, dear friends, a while loop can have an optional if else block. We use if else statements in the loop when conditional iteration is needed. That is, if the condition is true, then the statement inside the if block will execute otherwise, and the else block will execute. And here it is the example, dear friends. See, n is equal to input. Yeah, you are just going to get an number from the user. So please enter number. And if that number it is greater than 0, check whether the number is even or not by making the modulus function. And you can just check that condition by if program. And see, this if function, it just have the condition, that is n modulus of 2. If it is equivalent to 0, yeah, it is an even number, else it is an odd number. And see here, we have to just decrease the number 1 in each of iteration. So from the exact execution, it is just going to enter how many numbers you are just want to print. And here it is the output, dear friends. Let I just give the number 9, and see, yeah, 9 is odd number, 8 is even number, 7 is odd number, 6 is even number, until till it is less than that is 0 or equivalent to 0, it just continues the iteration. Okay, next we just go for the example, printing the square of odd number less than n. So till n, we need to make the square of the odd number. First, we have to check whether the given number is odd number or not. Okay, so for that, let me just have the input of the n number, that is to be less than n. So it just enters into the while condition, while loop, and there it checks whether it is a even or odd. And if it is an odd number, it has to be just made the square of it, else it has to just print I, and it ends to that of else functionality. So here it is the output, dear friends. See here, for 1 and 2, so 3, it is an odd number, so it just gives the square of 3, it is 9. And for 4, it is an even number, and 5, it is the odd number, so the resultant is 25. And next, 6 is an even number, and next we are just having the 7 as an odd number, so it returned as 7 square, which is 49. And next one, 8, so it is an even number. And next, if it is an odd number, yeah, 9 is an odd number, so it just returns as 9 square, which is 81. So these are programs or somewhat interesting and unique thing. Okay, next let me just see, add all even numbers from 1 to 10 using while loop. Okay, so we have to check whether the number limited to which one. So here you can just get the maximum value, or you can just specify, yeah, here we have just specified as 10 to be the maximum value. And next we want to make the summation, yeah, so for that sum is equal to 0, and I to be the first number we want to initiate it. And see here, dear friends, while I is less than or equal to n, here we want to just make whether it is odd or even. So with that function we want to just make the modulus, which is equivalent to 0. And see here, if it is of even, yeah, it is going to make the summation. And see, sum is equal to sum plus I, and you can just make use of I is equal to I plus 1 to make the continuation of the iteration. And once for all, once the exact iteration is finished, yeah, we get the summation of, that is the sum of even numbers from 1 to 10. Here it is specified. Here we are just having one more interesting example. See here, dear friends, write a code to add all the prime numbers between 17 to 53 using while loop. Yeah, first we want to just make use of the yeah, exact method where we want to have the prime numbers, and here it is specified the range. Yeah, it is from 17 to 54, and for that we can use for loop. And once for all, if it is greater than or equal to 2, it just enters into the while condition. And here it is the while condition. What is just going to check, it is for the modulus of k, which is not equivalent to 0 for the prime number. And if it is I is equal to k, yeah, it is just going to make the summation. And for this, kindly just see, dear friends, this exact summation, it is for the loop of the while condition, where it just get each and every number from the inner body of this while, and then it just checks for the outer is in the sense for the for loop. And the for loop, it just makes the iteration from 17 till 54, and each and everything it is summed, and it is just kept in the value of I. And kindly just have a note of it, that is the total sum we are just getting, it is from the sum of the value, and that be executed here. So we are just having two prints. One is to have the exact number 17, 19, 23, 29 until 53 we are just having, and total the sum is to be executed. And next we are just going to see, that is while loop with else. A while loop can have an optional else block as well. The else part is executed if the condition in the while loop evaluates to false. And see here, dear friends, if the else will be skipped or ignored when the while loops terminates abruptly, or the break statement, or which is used to break the while loop, that would be included there. Okay, and this break statement and pause or continue, that special statements, let me just see tomorrow, but tomorrow's session. Okay, anyhow, we just continue with these examples with else part alone. And see here, dear friends, here we are just having a count is equal to 0, where that count should be less than 5 to make the iteration. If it is greater than 5, or it just goes to out of the loop and makes the functionality. And see, this above loop condition will be false when count is less than 5, and loop stops and executes the starts the else statement. Okay, as the result 5 will be outputted, that is printed. Till 5 it has to make the iteration. So once if it is done, so apart from the finishing of this while, this else would be started and uh, executed. So see here, dear friends, this is less than 5. So till less than 5, it would be executed by the while condition, and at last the fifth one would be executed by the else condition. And see here, dear friends, here we are just having one more functionality, where use while loop to print numbers from 1 to 6. Okay, see here, this 1 to 6, here we have just specified equal, so the 6 also be included. But what is the thing is, once for all finishing this iteration in the while condition, anyhow the last else part has to be done to execute the while condition, or to ends with the while condition. Okay, so here it is not nothing much more specialty, the just executing the I from the 1 till 6. And see here, this is the exact output. So from I 1 to 6, it would be executed, because here we have just specified less than or equal to 6. Next, there is one more functionality, that is else block will break statement in a while loop. And see here, this break, if you're just having or attaining any functionality, it is done abruptly, and it just passes on to the else function. So if you want to make any functionality, so see here, dear friends, when you just make the same method above, here the I is equal to less than or equal to 6, so it just enters into the loop. But when see here, if I is equal to 3, it is just going to break it. So till 3 it would be executed, and after 3 it is not going to make the incremental, rather it just passes on to the else function, and it finishes as just done while loop executed. And see here, it is the break, so holds for else the exact execution would be stopped, that is abruptly. Okay, so even though if it is while or else or whatever be, once if the break is comes, even though it is not passing on to the else too. And see here, just 1 2 3 has been executed. And next comes the example. See here, dear friends, here we use a counter variable to print the string inside loop 3 times. That is, counter is less than 3, so inside while loop it has to be done for three times, so 3 times it has to be executed. Okay, and next it has to execute that inside else. So on the fourth iteration, the condition in while becomes false, and hence the else part is to be executed. Okay, so here the exact counter, it is just going to increment it, that is to start and make the iteration of this till less than 3. So let me just see this. Yeah, see here, dear friends, inside while loop, it is inside while loop, it is just printed thrice, and once for all finishing the while condition, it just starts the else condition, where it prints inside else. Okay, next it is the program that is we want to user to enter a number between 100 and 600. Okay, fine. If we just making that number and while number is less than 100 or number is greater than 600, what it just going to do? Yeah, incorrect number, please enter correct number. And if you are entering it correctly, yeah, given number is correct. Okay, so this is how the exact execution. Let me just make it the whole process and see here, dear friends. Let I just give less than 100 once, just 99, and see incorrect number, please enter correct number. And see here once again I'm just going to give the number that is greater than 600, so 601. Yeah, that too incorrect number, please enter given number. So till it just satisfied, it just makes it the iteration. And see here, if this condition is to be false, we have to give the number between 100 and 600. So let I just give 555. Yeah, the given number is correct, which is in 55. Oh, sorry, 555. Okay, next comes the reverse while loop. The reverse loop means an iterating loop in the backward direction. A simple example includes that is display numbers from 10 to 1 or reverse a string or a reversing a list. So that is what the most used examples when on providing some reverse while loop functionality. And here it is the same. Yeah, here what is the thing is we are just going to get a number here, n. So okay, here it is as like I, and that I, it has to be less than or equal to 0. So where instead of incremental, here you are just going to provide the decremental to reach the while condition to be false. Until the false it's there, yeah, it is just going to display the number from 10 to 1 in the reversing order. Here it is the result. Next comes the nested while loop, and see here, dear friends, nested while loop is a while loop inside another while loop. And in the nested while loop, the number of iteration will be equal to the number of iteration in the output loop, where multiple by the iteration in the inner loop. In each iteration of the outer loop, the inner loop executes all its iteration. And here it is the syntax. Kindly have a look in this example, dear friends. See here, I just want to print the first 10 numbers on each line 5 times. Okay, on each line 5 times. Okay, let me just have it as less than or equal to 3. So here it is another 3 times. Okay, so here what I just making is I is less than equal to 1, and from the initiation till 10 I just want to iterate. Okay, so in the first line it just enters in the iteration of 1 to 10, and again it just makes how many times I want it 5 times. Okay, here I just specified it as a 3 times, so till 3 times it just makes the iteration of the outer. So see the execution output. See, the for the first iteration it just go as a count of I, and next the j is initiated j, the first number of the to be printed, and it just makes the iteration of j plus 1 till it reaches the 10. And once for all if it is done, yeah, it just go for the second count, that is second iteration of the number of times. And there here we are just specified as a 3 times. Okay, if we want to execute it as a for 5 times, yeah, here it's I just want to enter the first 10 numbers on each line. I want to execute it in for 5. Next, today we are just going to see about Python control statements, and that control statements are related to break, continue, and pass. As you may know, loops in Python are used to iterate repeatedly over a block of code. But at times you might want to shift the control once a particular condition is satisfied. So this is where control statements in Python come into the picture. So control statement in Python are used to control the flow of execution of the program based on the specified condition. So Python supports three type of control statements. One is break, continue, and pass. And break is exactly terminate the current loop. Use the break statements to come out of the loop instantly. And continue, skip the current iteration of the loop and move to the next iteration. Pass, do nothing, ignore the condition in which it occurred and proceed to the run the program as usual. And see here, dear friends, loops iterate over a block of code until the test expression is false. But sometimes we wish to terminate the current iteration or even the whole loop without checking test expressions. The break and continue statements are part of a control statement that helps you to understand the basic of Python. Let me just see about the first one, Python break statement. In Python, the break statement provides you with the opportunity to exit out of the loop when an external condition is triggered. And the program control transfer to the next statement flowing the loop. If the break statement is inside the nested loop, the loop inside another loop, the break statement will terminate only the innermost loop. You will put the break statement within the block of the code under your loop statement, usually after a condition, that is if statement, and this statement can only be used in for loop and while loop. Let me just have a look of how the break statement is in for loop and while loop. See here, dear friends, we are just having the for loop here, and if a condition is there and you have just provided a break here and it just goes to the outside for the loop, and when if it is for it is outside for the loop, and once for all if it is just going outside for a loop, it just makes the iteration of the next one. And here when in while loop, what it just does, it just makes the break statements and goes out of the while loop, and here what would be the exact test condition. Yeah, that's we want to discuss it. Yeah, kindly just have a look of this, dear friends. See, in this first example, we are just seeing about a variable that is declared with a list 10, 30, 120 and 330, where here we are just having this for loop I in the number. So this list we want to just make it one by one. If I is greater than 100, you want to give a break and print current number is. And see here, dear friends, when just comes 10, yeah, it is just going to make, yeah, it is check for the condition, yeah, it is less than 100, so it just gives, yeah, current number is 10. And again for the next second iteration, it just check for the 30, yeah, current number is 30, it is going to. And when coming to 120, it is not going to print it, rather it just breaks the loop and comes out of it. There, here's the executed result here, dear friends. And the same look at an example that uses the break statement in a for loop. Okay, so see here, dear friends, number 0 is the exact one initiated, and for number in range, that is 10, and here number is equal to number plus 1, so it is just getting on iteration from 0 to 1 2 3 4 5 6 like that. And once if number equivalent 5, it has to break it and it has to go to the outer loop. Okay, it has to break the inner loop and it has to go to the outer loop, and again it just makes the iteration functionalities. So in this small program, the variable number n is initialized as 0, then a for statement construct the loop as long as the variable is less than 10. So let I just execute and explain you detailedly. So then with the for loop, the number increments makes one by one with each pass, because of the number here it is number is equal to number plus 1. Then there is a if statement that presents the condition that if the variable number is equivalent to integer 5, then the loop will break. So within the loop is also a print function, that is print statement, that will execute with each iteration of the for loop until the loop breaks. So since it is after the break statement, okay, to see when we are out of the loop, we include one more final print statement outside for the for loop, outside for the for loop. So this shows that once the integer number is evaluated as equivalent to 5, the loop breaks as the program is told to do so with the break statement. So okay, next comes the nested break statement. See, actually, to terminate the nested loop, use a break statement inside the inner loop, for examples. So here we are just having the same thing. Okay, so here what we want is we want to print from the range of 1 to 100, but if it is greater than or equal to 10, we are just going to have a break, and the outer loop of the for loop, it's just going to give you the completed statement. So till 0 to 10 it just comes, and when on coming to 11, that is the next iteration of 11, what it just do, it just makes us a complete. Okay, next there is a string sequence, dear friends. Kindly have a look of this. See, we iterate through string sequence where we check if the letter I upon letter is I, so upon which we break from the loop, and hence we see in our output that all the letters up till I gets printed. After that the loop terminates. Okay, so let I just execute. See here, dear friends, so it just makes the iteration one by one. So we just got the output of yes, st, and r. When coming for I, it just get that is terminated. Okay, next we just have one more example as print the letters in hello world. Okay, one by one until the letter R is reached using break statement in Python. Okay, so see here we I have already given the commands for your better understanding, but anyhow, see here, dear friends, so for letter in hello world, here we are just giving the sequence directly, and if the letter is equal to R, the character R is in the world. Okay, so that R, once if it reach, we have to get the break, we have to terminate it. So where we are, so once after making the break, okay, it is not going to print that letter, instead it's just going to make until letter R is printed. So see here, it is the output. So HELLOWO till that it was executed, and the last, instead of R, it just got terminated, and it prints the until letter R is printed. Okay, let me just make some input from the user. Okay, so enter an input, enter a word. So for I in A, for an example, if you are just providing whether the exact word I is equal to A, if print A is found, and here we are just having break, and we already know that for else, so once if we just uh, finish the iteration of for, it has to enter into the else, so which we have already seen in our previous sessions. So in the else part, it just execute print A not found. Okay, so see here it is the output. Let I just make any word with A. Okay, let I just give my word. Okay, yeah, A is found. Okay, and again I just make an one more execution. A not found, because the first letter is not, so A not found. Okay, fine. Next, let me just go for the next example, dear friends. See here, what is the thing is, let me just make use of while loop with break statement. Okay, and here we are just declaring a variables, that is the string variable, and with that we want to just get the length of the string. And here we just want to start the iteration, so we just initialize I is equal to 0, and we want to check for the size, which till that we have to reach the last character of that word. Okay, and if we are having any space, it has to get break, and if not, it just has to print it as it off. And see here, dear friends, we are having a space here, so we just only going to print the first word, and here it's the output. Okay, let me have one more thing. Here it is, we are just going to print a multiplication table of in the sense whatever the number you just provide, it is just going to have the multiplication table. And we have two loops, the outer loop and the inner loop. The outer for loop iterates the first 10 number using the range, and the second function and the inner loop prints the multiplication table for each number. So but if the current number of the both the outer loop and the inner loop is greater than 5, then terminate the inner loop using the break statement. Okay, so here this break statement is only for this inner loop inside the current functionality. So let I just execute it here. See here, dear friends, after 5 till 5 it is not a problem, it just makes 1 to 10, 1 to 10 of each. But when coming to 5, what it just does, it is not going for the first iteration, so rather than it just makes a from the 1 2 3 4 5 multiplications alone. Rather than that, after greater than 5 it just gets terminated. So for the 6 into 6, 36, that is not displayed here. 7 into 6, it's not there. 8 into 6, 9 into 6, 10 into 6. So after both the things, after if it is both or I and j or greater than 5, yeah, here we have applied a break statement. Okay, next here a break statement in outer loop. Okay, so to terminate the outer loop, use a break statement inside the outer loop for. Okay, let me just with an example, and see here, dear friends, we have the same thing here. Two loops is there, one is outer loop and the inner loop. And the outer loop, we are just having the iteration of 10 numbers, and the inner loop that makes the multiplication table of each other. But if the current number of the outer loop is greater than 5, then terminates the outer loop using the break statement. And here let I just execute, only we are having the multiplication of till 5. Till 5 only we are just getting the multiplication table. Okay, let me just move on to the next one, dear friends. Here we are just having a list 3, 6, 12, and 9, and that list we are just going to take as a numbers one by one, where current number is I is in the sense 3, 6, 12, and 9, and skip below statement if number is greater than 10. So when it just comes to the number is greater than 10, that is 12, it would just get the skipping. Rather than that, it just goes to make the continuation of the another part. Okay, so let I just execute it. See here, if on coming to say 3, it just given as a 9, that is 3 into 3, and when just executing of 6, yeah, we just got the 6 into 6 as 36. But when on coming to 12, which is greater than 10, Okay, here the square, it is not evaluated, rather than it just make the continue, and the current execution has been skipped and it just falls to the next iteration. And what is the next iteration? Yeah, it is about the 9, and here the square of 9 is 81.